My name is Timur, and this is the part one of learning HTML. Uh, so, the first thing we want to do is actually you're going to want to download Visual Code Studio. Um, if you go to the website, depending on if you have a Mac, Windows, or Linux, you can download the software. I'm not going to show you how to do that. It's fairly easy, and I already have it installed, so I'm just going to open that one up. And I'm just gonna show you what we're gonna do in the course. So the idea is gonna be to replicate this website. So we're gonna start off with just learning a little bit about the basics of HTML first, and then we'll move on to trying to replicate this website. So that's gonna be the course. Um, all right, so the first thing you're going to want to do is go to Visual Studio Code and then go to File and then click on New File. And then you're going to want to save as your document. And I created a folder called Coding Course and then another folder called Part 1 in there. And then we're going to name our file index.html. The reason why we're naming it index is just a convention, because you could name it whatever you want, like homepage or whatever, Timor, this is my name. Uh, but one important thing is to know is that all HTML files end with .html, and that generally your homepage, like your entry page to your website, and by entry page I mean like the first page that people will see once they enter your website, is by convention called index.html. And the reason for that is because a lot of web servers that serve your website look for a file called index.html when uh, they want to serve like the your homepage. So it's just a convention, so we'll name it that. Uh, so we're gonna save that. In Visual Studio Code, the cool thing is you have this shortcut where you can type HTML colon and then tab, and it's gonna give you like a boilerplate template of HTML to start with. And I'll eventually explain to you what each of these elements mean, but I'm gonna delete this and just start from scratch for now, just because it's gonna be more pedagogical that way. All right, so the main thing to know about HTML is that it's composed of a lot of different tags. So this is a tag, right? And I gave it a name called node, but you could name it something else. Uh, and a tag, this is called an opening tag, and then this is called a closing tag. And the difference between, sorry, the difference between the two is just that this one has like a slash inside of it, which means that it's a closing tag. And the reason why we have opening and closing tags is because you can have other nodes inside these nodes. And so what this means, the fact that it's indented inside of this one means that this is a child node of this node. And I'm just going to show you a little visual representation of what HTML kind of looks like, the structure. So really what HTML is just like a bunch of nodes that like contain other nodes. So it's really like some sort of inverted tree. And then each node contains other nodes. And that's how kind of you build a website. It's a bunch of nodes that have like relationships with each other. And sometimes I describe these as like Lego blocks, kind of. Uh, but they're all kind of like linked this way. Like as if it's a inverted tree. Um, and obviously, you can have like an infinite number of nodes, of child nodes, right? And each one of these can have like other child nodes and so on. And so that's kind of how we would represent this in HTML, where these two nodes are child nodes of this one, and this one is a child node of this one, right? That's kind of like how you structure HTML. And the first HTML node is like the root node, kind of, which is called HTML. And the HTML node has two other nodes. One of them is called head, and the other is called body. And inside the body is the content of your web page. So, if I write some text here, and I save this, we can already see that you have the beginning, like the most basic website. If I open the file with Google Chrome, you'll see that, we display Hello World here in the browser. That's like your most basic website. And in the head that's where the metadata is for the website, and it's mostly used by search engines to look at. You can put like metadata, like keywords that you want search engines to link your website to. You can put a title for your website. So if I put the title Timur's webpage, you can see here on the tab it says index.html, and if I refresh it, we'll see the title here appear. So this title is kind of like for search engines mostly. Again, there's other tags here that you can put that just tell the browser certain things. And in the boilerplate that we saw earlier, there's a few tags that I can explain to you probably in another course. Actually, we'll look at them in another course. All right, so the most important tag is the div, and that's kind of like your most basic HTML tag. There's probably like a few tags that you need to know. There's not that many. There's obviously the HTML tag, the head tag, the head tag, the title tag, body tag, right? And in terms of like content stuff, there's the div tag, which is the most important one. Then there's the image tag, and that one is like a self-closing tag. Basically, nodes that can't have any children are generally self-closing tags. And a tag can contain attributes. So like the image tag takes an attribute which is called source, and here you need to put a link to an image, right? So if I go find like some sort of image online, I can like find an image, and like if I click on this, I can copy the image address and then just paste it here, and I can save this, and we'll see that the image appears here, right? Then we also have the input tag. The input tag is also a self-closing tag, and that's like an input just to put some text in there. And generally, tags will appear one under, like the hello world div is here, and then the image is going to be under it, and then we would assume that the input would go under it as well, but the reason it doesn't is just because I'll show you. Oh, here I just opened the developer tools. Like to open it, you can like just click on more tools and click on developer tools here. I use the shortcut, which is Command Option and I to open it. And what that does is you can kind of like click on this button here to inspect elements on your HTML page, and we see here that it'll highlight the element for you, tell you like its dimensions, its color here in hexadecimal code, the font size, which is like 16 pixels px, and then the font family, which is Times. And I'll show you how to change that if you want to, but mainly you can kind of like click on the image, on the input, and if I put display block here, it'll appear on the next line. So really, by default, most tags are what's called display block, and that when a tag is has a property called display block, it'll appear under the element, and when it's display inline, it'll appear next to it, like on the same line. And that's here the properties that I'm adding here. That's called CSS. So you can basically style each one of your elements, but we'll look at that later. And really, to start with, those are like your most basic elements. I don't think we need more to build a website like this, and it's surprising that you don't need more. So it's mostly like CSS that we'll use to like make all of this stuff. We're not going to need any more HTML elements. So like in terms of HTML, it's fairly easy, right? Like all you need to learn is, okay, you have HTML node, the head node, the title node, body, you have divs, image, and input, right? And I don't think we have any inputs on this site either, so you don't really need to know that one either. So every HTML element can be styled this way, right? You can add like an attribute to the element, and then you can give it like certain properties. So like background color, we can say is going to be blue, and if we do that, we'll see that the div up here is going to turn blue, right? And then what you can also do is, let's say we can give it some margin of 20 pixels, and when you give margin to a div, it just puts a whole bunch of space around it. So we see here that there's a whole bunch of space around the element that the browser, when you put your arrow on the div, the browser is going to highlight that extra space around it as an orange color, just to tell you that that's the margin around the element. And you can also give the element some padding, which is also space, but inside the element. So margin and padding is extremely important, and it's probably one of the things that you do first when you create a div, is you want to place it somewhere in the so you want to give it some margin and some padding. So basically you want to kind of like place the element in a certain space. Here you can give it, instead of giving it margin all around, you can also only give it margin top, and let's say padding bottom, or padding left, or padding right. So those are all properties that you can give to the element, and it changes kind of like the spacing around that element. But nobody wants to, like, because if we were to add like CSS here in inline this way, it's called like inline styling on a div, that could take a lot of space on one line, and it can look like very messy. So generally, you don't do that. So we're gonna move all this. So generally, what you do is you give that div a class name. So the class is gonna be called hello, right? And then up here in the head, you can create like a style node, and inside there, you can refer to the class by typing a dot and then the name of the class. And then in curl, if what the properties that are gonna apply to the class named hello are gonna be in between these curly brackets, right? And so we're gonna move all the styling here. So background color blue, and the property needs to end with a semicolon. That's just like the syntax that you kind of need to learn. So we're gonna put margin 20, padding 20 pixels, and then we're gonna like delete all this here, and we'll see that the div will be styled accordingly. All right, so now we're gonna end this course by explaining to you kind of what the boilerplate looked like, right? So this was the initial boilerplate. This first line, doctype.html, is actually important. You want to have that, and this signals to the browser that we're going to use HTML5, so the most recent version of HTML. So you do want to have this line here on top. Then this here, the attribute to the HTML node, is just specifying the language that the HTML page is in. And this can change, obviously, if you have like a button that changes the language from English to French or some other language. And this is also for like generally search engines and stuff like that. So you can leave that there. This tag is like a metadata tag, and the metadata tag is kind of a weird one because it's one of the only tags that is not self-closing like this for some reason, but doesn't have any children. And it's probably like, I think it's like one of the only HTML tags that is like this. So it's kind of that's kind of just an exception. And this says that our character set is going to be UTF-8. It's just for search engines as well. This one was to tell browsers, to tell basically the IE Internet Explorer browser to use like modern features, whatever. But I think this is kind of useless now. It's not the case anymore. The most recent versions of IE kind of know what to do already, so you don't even need this one. We can just delete it. And then this one is important because it's important in mobile. Basically, it says that the width of your screen is going to be the width of the device, so basically of your phone, and the scale is going to be a 1-to-1. So that's just for like responsiveness between devices. You kind of want to have this tag here, and that's it. The rest is the same. We can just kind of move what we put here in the body, and then what's the style tag we can move here in the head, and then copy the title, Timur's webpage, and then delete this here, and then we have our basic first website, which is going to look pretty much the same, right? All right, so this is the first course. In the next course, we're actually going to start working on this website. So looking forward to See you in the next class. Cheers.